right, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Now we're live on, we're ready to go. Here we are. I tell you what, we have a lot to go over tonight and chat about, and we're looking forward to having a good time with you guys. Happy Friday to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic Friday. I did, yeah. Chuck Norris passed away, yeah. But of course, Chuck Norris was 88 years old. So he lived a very long life, a very, very long life. And boy, truly, I mean, that's pretty spectacular, especially these days. You can live, 88 years old. That's a blessing. That is a blessing. All right, everybody, I'm Bishop Long, and welcome to the Sacred Division, And we have a brand new network that we're chatting with, and we're looking forward to talking to them and getting to know, their folks on that network. And I want to tell you about it. It's the unxnetwork.com. That is where we're going to be airing our presentations from now on. And I think that's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So again, if you want to go to our network, go to UNX Network. I told you it was, Mr. Producer. I told you it was. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know why. Because I'm completely wide up. That's why I was telling you it was low. So I don't know. It says, let me just do something real quick. Okay, let's see. Well, that's a little better. When you have to switch, sometimes again, kind of gets a little crazy, but that's okay. That's as good as we have now, so there's nothing else I can do about that. So, all right. I know. Hopefully it's not, you got to let me know, but it looks like it's coming through pretty clear. I'm almost screaming into the microphone. I can't do that for 2 hours. So, yeah, I tell you what. So anyway, go to unxnetwork.com. All right. Thank you very much. unxnetwork.com. And that's where we are. And hopefully you'll head on over yonder and check out the new network. Man, Mr. Producer, let me know if this is fine too. If it's not, what do we do? Yeah, it's apple juice time. That's the problem. Oh, you guys are fine. You guys have a different microphone. You guys don't have the microphone that on all the other social media platforms. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 9. So, yeah. So let me know, Mr. Producer. Let me know. And then we're going to go from there. If you want to go to my website, you certainly can do so. That's Bishop James Long, Long. You follow that up with a .com. Bishop James Long, Long. And then follow that up with a .com. And the church's network, of course, is usocc.org. Now, I want to remind everybody, don't forget that when you go to my website, if you head on over yonder, there are some books that are available for you to purchase. And 100% of that is going to the MKS Kids Foundation. It's an orphanage that we're partnering with. So we are donating all the profits. All the profits is going to MKS Kids Foundation. Nope, Troy. But that's the difference between a cross and a crucifix. And so there you go. Now, for those of you who don't know, 1 day a week, we do a paranormal show. 1 day, 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's all. The rest of the week, when we are on air, it's 100% theology. We're praying for people. We have Bible study 1 day a week. That's it. So if us having one paranormal show for 1 week, if that somehow offends you, stick around and I'll offend you again, I'm sure. So many people are so sensitive, I tell you. What are you going to do? 1 day a week. That's it for 1 hour and 45 minutes. We're on air 6 days a week. And every day we're on, it's theology, as it should be. So Friday is our Paranormal Friday show. And that's what we're doing. We're going to talk We have a lot to go over this evening. And for those of you who don't know a little bit about me, let me just give you a heads up. So I studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years. I received my minor orders. God called me to serve in the old Catholic Church. I begged God to take it away because I didn't know how I was going to start a parish on my own, because we don't get paid one penny in the old Catholic Church. We fund our ministry with our own money. And I don't charge for my ministry. Never have, never will. So I'm not Donald Trump. I don't have a private plane. So when people need me in Florida, I work with paranormal teams. I've been in the paranormal field for 35 years. My first place that I investigated was Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, I am not running around in graveyards chasing ghosts, contrary to what the trolls will tell you that I am. I am working cases that are very violent, in which many clergy will not work. 35 years. I'm in my 50s. So I appreciate those of you who say 35 years. That would mean you're only working, you were 2 years old when you started. No, I in fact, 35 years. And yeah, it was a very interesting case. I mean, I don't feel old. Botox, no. But I did try Botox for migraines. That hurt. And it did nothing for me. Nothing. So I played football in the 80s and in the early 90s. And back in the days where we had concussions and we thought, well, that's normal. And they stuck needles all around. Thank you. They stuck needles all around everywhere. It hurt. And it didn't do anything. It did nothing at all. So that's okay. That is okay. Now, tonight, everybody, so I serve as the presiding archbishop for the United States Old Catholic Church, and you have migraines. You got to figure out what's triggering yours. I know what triggers mine. That is because of the concussions. So I serve as the presiding bishop for the United States Old Catholic Church, and I also serve as an exorcist. Now, many years ago, I was on Ghost Adventures at the Bobby Mackey's episodes. I did 3 episodes with them, and I'm a cast member of the Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show. You can stream it on all the streaming devices. As of today, I performed 34 exorcisms. I'm working on the 35th. And we'll talk about, we're going to talk about demonology tonight. And I thought, since this is a brand new show on a brand new network, the UNX network, why not bring in our good friend, Willie Windwalker Gibson. So let's bring him on. Hello, Willie. How are you, my man?
Hey, James. How are
you? I tell you what, the spring is heading around, so I love that. So anytime the spring is, much better weather.
Oh, yes.
Much better weather. So for those of you who do not know our friend, Willie Windwalker Gibson, let me tell you a little bit about him. I've known Willie for a long time. Willie Windwalker Gibson is a renowned shaman. He's a spiritual healer, author, highly respected for his work in bridging traditional Native American spiritual practices with modern holistic healing techniques. He was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. And Willie Gibson carries the wisdom and ceremonial traditions of his Native American and Cherokee heritage. His unique insights and abilities as a shaman have made him a sought-after guide for those seeking spiritual clarity and healing. And again, before the trolls start doing this, Willie is a devout Christian. Now, Willie began experiencing spiritual visions and encounters at an early age, leading him on a lifelong journey to embrace and explore his innate abilities. And over the years, he has honed in on skills on various shamanic practices, including meditation, energy healing, spiritual counseling, and with a particular focus on connecting individuals to their ancestral spirits and guiding them toward balance and harmony in their lives. Now, he's a versatile and engaging speaker. Willie has appeared on numerous radio and television programs. He shares his profound knowledge of spiritual realms, enlightening listeners with stories of angelic beings, powerful healing experiences, demonic cases. His approachable style and deep understanding of both earthly and spiritual worlds have resonated with audiences around the globe. Now, in addition to his healing practice, Willie is an accomplished author, written several books to capture his vast experience and insights, aiming to inspire and empower others on their spiritual journey. His writings explore a variety of topics: shamanic rituals, sacred connections with nature, encounters with angelic and spiritual entities. And through his work, Willie is dedicated to fostering a deeper understanding of spirituality, cross-cultural connection, and personal transformation. So with compassion and clarity, he encourages others to embrace their spiritual gifts and live authentically. So with that, Willie, I really appreciate you taking this time and being on our brand new show for our brand new network, the UNX network. So thank you for doing that.
Well, sure, James. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad you're with a new network, and I'll be your first guest.
Yep, you're going to be and I'm sure we'll have you on plenty of times, because a lot of people like to have Willie Windwalker on.
Well, I've got 60 years experience. There ain't nothing I ain't handled.
I mean, you have been in the paranormal for a little bit, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, since 10.
Yeah. Now, so for those of you who don't know, we're going to talk to Willie about angelic beings, encounters. Then we're going to kind of go right into questions about demonic possession. And of course, about modern day miracles. We're just going to have a conversation. Willie and I can have a conversation about all kinds of things. And I think it's going to be a very cool thing. But before we do, Willie, so you're a Christian.
Yes.
So, and you're a psychic medium.
Yes.
And you're a shaman.
Yes.
So people are already asking, how can you be a Christian shaman and claim to be a psychic medium? Let's just get that Let's just get that out of the way so we can move on to far more important questions.
Well, James, I didn't start out to be a shaman. I was chosen to be a shaman. I started out as a cop, believe it or not. And people on this network, I started out as a cop, and I'm Native American, and I am Irish, so I'm part Celtic too. So I'm good with both sides. But my dad was very, very religious, and I had 3 uncles that were Pentecostal ministers. And my dad was a lay minister, and he would send us to Sunday school, and he would preach to us, and we would read the Bible and all that. But he was also Native American, and he taught me the Native American spiritual side of things, how to use the earth, wind, and fire, water, how to use the 4 directions, how to do things from nature. And he was really a wholehearted Cherokee, but he was also, he was very, very spiritual, and he was very, very into God. I mean, he introduced us to God right away, and we do. I mean, the shamans work with a great spirit really, really close. I mean, we're not witch doctors or anything like that. We work with nature. We work with spirit. We work with a great spirit. And people think they think we go out and do spells and things like that. Well, I've been trained to use the light of God as a protection. And I've gone against a lot of now you've got good shamans, you've got bad shamans just like anybody else. And I've gone against bad shamans. You've got good witches and bad witches. I've worked with good witches, and I've gone against bad witches, and I've worked with all kinds of religions. I've worked with, I've worked cases for Bishop Long. I've worked cases with Pentecostal. I've even worked alongside Buddhists. And we get along just fine because we work for the same person. We work for the Great Spirit, God, and it's all the same way. If you see a Native American sage someplace, take their sage out and sage someplace to clear an area or bring in good energy. Well, a priest does the same thing. What do you think is in the censer? When he goes through does his ceremonies with a censer, it's basically the same thing. We just do it different ways. So there's nothing wrong with a shaman. A shaman works for God. Now, if you go to your Bible, you go to 1 Corinthians 12, and you read it really close, and it talks about doing things with the Spirit of God. It talks about people that will discern spirits and things of that nature. So, just go to 1 Corinthians 12. I don't want to do a whole lot of arguing. Neither does Bishop Long. He and I have been doing this stuff for 40 years. I've been doing this stuff for professionally now, out in the field for 35 years. I met James 25 years ago, and ever since the time we've met, he's went from one thing to another. One time or another, we've gotten together and done cases and worked out things for other people all over the United States, because he's got a network of people that he works with, because he has to send out people to check out things before he even intercedes it, because you run into a lot of people that tells you that you're going to be, that they have a demon, but they could be a noisy water pipe, But before he goes out and travels with, like he said, it comes out of his own pocket. He does not get anything from Rome. It's a whole different situation with him. So, and I'm the same way. I get cases from all over the United States, but I can't go there because, hey, I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. And so I have to know other shamans in other areas. I can call them up and say, hey, can you go over there and check this area out? Or I'll get a team to go out for me and say, what do you got? Sometimes they got something, sometimes they don't. And if they do have something, I have to find a shaman in that area to go in and take care of it. I've actually had churches call me and say, hey, Windwalker, I don't think we can handle this. Can you come over and take care of it for us? And I've gone out and take care of it for them because they get stumped on what to do, And when you work in the supernatural realm, it's a whole different area. You run into whole different things. So,
right.
If people out there, if they want to badmouth me, that's fine. All it does, it makes me stronger.
Yeah, here's the deal. Look, guys, I think it's important to be able to have a conversation with people that maybe you don't necessarily agree everything on theology, and that's perfectly fine. See, I am comfortable enough with my theology and my faith that I can have a conversation with anybody with any faith and not feel threatened by it. That is a sign, of course, as emotional intelligence. For those who struggle, that they lack emotional intelligence. But nonetheless, and when you're comfortable with your faith, you're not threatened by learning other people's perspective. Just simply, you just don't. And I think that's important. We don't have to agree with one another on everything, but I think it's important to present different perspectives. And as Willie has made it very clear, he's a Christian. Yes, he's on the record as being a psychic medium. He's a shaman. But let me ask you, how do you discern, Willie? So let's say you're working a case. How do you discern whether a message that you're getting is actually from God, the Holy Spirit, your guides, versus a demon that's trying to trick you?
By the energy, James. I have to fill out an area. A demon will give off a certain vibe. And boy, I've felt a lot lately in the last few years, and because I've been going through some things that they really try me on. Demons will wait till you get to your weakest point, and they try to get you to do something to harm somebody or yourself. Anything that's going to cause harm to somebody, or that's wrong, it's not from the light of God. That's from a demon, a fallen angel. And there's a lot of spirits out there, believe it or not, that tries to make you think they're a demon. And there's some things that James does and I do that can tell you, that if it's a demon or not. For instance, a demon will not tell you its name. But if you get a spirit that says, well, I'm so-and-so and I'm the greatest, you're a punk spirit that thinks we're going to get scared of a name. There are certain things that if you're a professional and you've been in this business for a long time, that you can tell what you're dealing with, whether it's from the light or from the dark.
So when you're doing either working a case, a demonic case, or perhaps maybe let's just say you're whatever you're doing, a shamanic ritual, whatever it might be, are there rituals or forms of prayer that you use or say before and after doing this work?
Yeah, we just put a white light of protection around us for like a shield, and ask for God's protection. We ask for the Great Spirit's protection all the time as shamans, just like any other Christian would. You know, it's just we do things different. You know, we do stuff like other clergy members, but in a different type of way. Because we, like I said, we use the four directions. We use earth, wind, fire, and water a lot. And you know, and people out there, I don't go looking for demons. I usually walk into a situation that has a demonic profile to it. That's like James. He'll get called in to do an exorcism, but he has to be careful how he deals with stuff, like I said before. So I have to do the same thing. But I don't go out. I don't throw my shingle out. Professional exorcist. I don't do that. I've run into cases that I have to perform clearings for, but I don't go out looking for trouble. But if trouble finds me, I'll handle it.
Yeah. Now, if those of you, if you would like to ask questions, you can. I'll do the best I can to grab them as we're doing our presentation. For those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long with the United States Whole Catholic Church. I serve the church as the presiding bishop and exorcist. I did Ghost Adventures, the Bobby Mackey's episodes, and other networks. So I performed 34 exorcisms with people who are truly possessed. I do work with psychiatrists before I require psychological evaluation. So, yes, yeah, we'll talk about that, Keen, the skinwalkers. We'll talk about that in a moment. Yeah, Willie, do you tell people your age?
My age, yeah, I'm 70.
70 years young, everybody. 70 years young. So there was someone was asking a question. Okay, now the Ouija boards. First of all, I'm very vocal about Ouija boards and how I think it is. Stay away from it. It is a form of possession. I don't know why people are not understanding this. When you play with the Ouija board, do you realize? Let me explain why. So when you place your hand on the planchet and you're telling the spirit, whatever spirit is there, that they have the authority to then use your hands to move the planchet, that is a form of possession. Why would anyone do this? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. You have no idea who you're speaking to. You have nothing. You don't nothing. And so you're allowing this spirit, whatever it is, to control your motor functions. That is possession. So no, I would absolutely, and Willie, I'm sure he's going to tell you the same thing. Willie, have you ever had cases where someone used a Ouija board and all hell broke loose?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. About a third of my cases has some involve a Ouija board or a spirit board, or they've done mirror magic and stuff like that and open up portals. A Ouija board is a way to open up a portal. Anything can come out of there. And a lot of people, they experiment with Ouija boards. They think it's a game. It's not a game. It's sold in places that sells games. Well, I don't know, but they do, and they're selling. It's just like selling a kid a loaded gun because they think it's a game, and they go playing with it. And a lot of professionals, we know, James and me knows a lot of professionals that use a Ouija board, and there's some. I personally want to keep away from them because whatever comes out of them. If I'm in the area, they have a tendency to want to draw themselves to me, and I know I got to get rid of it. But yeah, a Ouija board is a portal. I would call it a portal to hell myself. And these kids that get out or novices that get out, just like you got people that want to be a ghost hunter. And they think because they go out and get a recorder and a camera, they can go out and look for ghosts. But they don't know they're playing with fire there too. And
100%, yeah.
I've had plenty of cases with Ouija boards.
So here's the big we always hear, Willie, about the land is cursed. It's native. My grandparents were Cherokee, and I kind of get a little insulted when everybody talks about it is sacred land and demon activity is occurring on that land because you desecrated. And it's like, no, wait a minute. How do we go from Native American for sacred land to now demon activity? And I think that is a real problem within the paranormal community, because to me, I find it appalling. Sacred land does not mean demon activity. And a lot of people are doing this. They're putting this together like, well, this is sacred Native Americans, so that's why you're having all this demonic activity. Wait a minute. What do demons have to do with Native Americans? Nothing whatsoever. You're desecrating sacred land. Yes, we can agree to that. But to call now that sacred land demonic? Come on. Now that to me, that's upsetting to me. So, Willie, here's a question. Being that you are a shaman, let's say, so Kat is asking, she needs a house blessing for a land that has native conflict. Can Willie recommend someone? So how do you recommend Willie to do a shamanic ritual in an area where everybody seems to be calling themselves a shaman and an exorcist these days, and because they go to Google University and all of a sudden now they're a shaman or exorcist?
James, sacred land, what people don't realize, sacred land, if you got a burial ground on sacred land, okay, that's what it means, sacred. The Native Americans are really strong on not messing with their dead. And a lot of these sacred lands have what is known as watchers on them. That's like a guard, okay? They're not demonic. They're like a security guard that gets in there, and if you do something wrong, they'll wreak a little havoc, to run you away. That don't mean they're demonic. That means they say, hey, you don't belong here. You don't need to be doing that, and get the heck out. They might do something like, if you're on there, they might say you're camping on Native American land, okay? They might mess with your tent. They might mess with your fire. They might cause they might have some animal, voices and stuff like that, to try to scare you away. No, they're not demonic. They are put there. They watch over the land. If you mess with the land negatively, they're gonna try to run you off. But if in another case, if you get on the land and you show respect to it, say you build a house and you put trees and things around there. If you respect the land and show them you respect that land, and you can even put a blessing on the property, it's going to be okay. What they're looking for is if you disrespect the dead, if you disrespect that land, there's going to be a watcher that comes around and he messes with you, but it's not demonic.
So let me
security guard.
Well, let me jump in here. So if it is Native American land, and let's say that there is clergy, Christian clergy, but they are not Native American, they have no Native American blood. Do you think that a person who is a Christian clergy could go in and bless that land, and that would be just as effective? Or do you think that really needs to have someone who is clergy, like myself, that has Native American blood, that is a Christian clergy, that comes in and blesses it? Do you think that the Native American blood really has any weight as to whether or not one or the other would work? Or do you think both would work?
James, it's all about respecting spirit. You can go in, any kind of clergy person can go in and do a blessing or a ceremony on Native American land, as long as you're respectful to it. It's only the people that try to damage the land or of negativity that go in there and try to put some kind of a ceremony on there to run things off, and they don't really know what they're doing.
Got it.
That's disrespected. I've ran into that professionally at Bill Witch, and as long as you go in there with respect, and you're a clergy member, or you're Catholic or you're Protestant, or as long as you respect that land and put a good blessing on it, they're okay with it.
Right. Now, again, folks, for those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. We're talking to our good friend Willie Windwalker Gibson, who is a shaman. And of course, he is a devout Christian. He's been in the paranormal field for a long, long, long time. Willie and I are very good friends. I've known him for 25 years. He's just a sweetheart of a person, very gifted, very talented. And I say that about a very few people. And I truly mean that, because I'm on record saying that I absolutely 100% know people who are psychic medium. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Willie is one of them, and I stand firm on that. He has shown me multiple times that God has given him a gift. Now, I think there's a lot of people who call themselves psychic mediums who are as psychic as my dog, but I'm absolutely convinced that Willie is. Now, many of you are going to say, but what about Deuteronomy? What about Leviticus? And why? And then I'm going to say, why are you taking Leviticus? Why are you taking the Holiness Code that has 613 laws in it and you're not following them? You can't do that. You can't cherry pick. And furthermore, for those of you who immediately want to say it says, don't see a psychic at medium. Friends, it was 3,000 years ago this was written. Okay, 3,000 years ago. So the language, their language and our language is not the same. For example, if you were to say, even 50 years ago, oh, that's cool, then the person would look at you and say, no, that's not cold. It looks pretty warm to me. So the meaning, words change. Context changes. So the reason it says don't seek out psychic mediums is because their understanding of a psychic medium was different than our understanding. And I learned this, by the way, blasphemy, and yet you have a name Dragonborn Exteriors. Anyway, sorry, someone needed attention. Go sit on the kiddie table. Now, it really is fine. It's interesting because I learned this, by the way, in the Roman Catholic seminary. So what happened is when someone passed away, you would have to go to these intermediaries because they had a lot of gods. They had a lot of pagan gods. You would have to offer them 5 shekels for every god. So let's say they had 10 gods. You have to give them 5 shekels for every god that they have. And if you did not, then that god would raise, that's the necromancy, your loved one up and punish them for eternity. That's why I was talking about necromancy. You got to read it in the context. It's important, boys and girls, to read scripture in context. Otherwise, you misinterpret it, and that's bad. Now, so what would happen is then you would have another loved one pass away. And, of course, then you go to the same intermediary, and they say, oh, no, now it's 10 shekels for each god, and now we have 20 gods. It was a fraud. It was a scam. That's what they were doing. And they were going to these people who were pagans who had multiple gods. So they were going to all these different gods because when you look at the context, it was speaking about polytheism and monotheism. For those of you who sit at the kiddie tables, monotheism means one God. Polytheism means 2 or more. Okay. Just I had to explain that. So nonetheless, Willie, what about seances? How are you? What are your? And it's interesting. The Roman Catholic Church does say that, but I actually know Roman Catholic priests that will absolutely tell you privately that they know people who are gifted, but they won't tell you publicly. And I know who they are. I've had a conversation with several of them. Several. So, I get it. I get why they can't. But yeah. I'm not afraid to stand firm and absolutely tell you that I absolutely believe there are people who are gifted. And if that hurts people's feelings, go speak to your therapist. All right, Willie, what about seances? Now, I'm not too big on seances at all because I think it can be quite dangerous. But again, everybody has a different perspective. And I would like for you to tell, what is your perspective on seances?
James, when I first got into this professionally, I was called to a lot of seances, okay? And people were, believe it or not, people were going out and having these seances, and they were just sitting there calling out spirits. Hey, can you come in and talk to us? And blah, blah, blah. And then they would have a person mediate it, and that person would go into a trance and really put on a show. They don't realize if you call something in, it's going to show up. And a lot of people, and it's also called setting for spirit too. So I've been called. I went to a few seances just to see what it was like. Shaman and I, when she was still alive, and James, more likely these people just wanted to do this for like if you're as this is a game, a game. You know, they were playing with fire and they didn't know it. And I would tell people this: don't do this. You're calling in spirits that you don't know what you're calling in. They didn't even bother trying to put up protections or anything. They just sit down there, close their eyes, and they started talking to the ethers, and whatever came in, they were willing to talk about it. And I one time I showed them something. Okay, they said, "Look, you're a shaman," and they even had another shaman there that said he was a shaman, but it wasn't. Okay, and I took care of him too at the same time. So why don't you come in and you moderate this and you bring in the spirits and da 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 da. I said, look, I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to show you the difference between fake and real. So I set them in the circle. I sat down there. I put protections up, you know, and they were sitting there and they were giggling on. About 2/3 of them were drunk, and then half of them were staggering, you know, falling out of their chairs. I said, "Let me show you something. Let me show you how what you're calling in." So I went on ahead and I opened the circle up, and I put my protections up, and I called in a spirit. And this is God's honest truth, James. A nun showed up. Okay, she appeared, and we were sitting at a round table. This nun walks in the center of the table, and she was looking at everybody, and she did not have a good. She was just frowning, and you could tell that if she had a ruler, she would just be spanking everybody. Okay, and those people, James, got up and ran out of the room. 2 of them passed out on the floor, and the shaman even passed out on the floor. And shaman was just laughing. I said, the only way to show fools things is to show them what they're getting into. And I showed them the dangers of a seance.
Amen. Yeah. Well, let's get into demonology, everybody. So, for those of you just joining in, I'm Bishop Long. We're talking to a call no man on earth Father Joe. Do you realize that the Roman Catholic Church wasn't even in existence when Jesus said this? Joe, he was speaking to the Pharisees. Again, if we read it in context, you realize that Jesus was speaking to the Pharisees who lorded titles over people. Read it in context, not the Cliff Notes version. That's bad. So make sure the Roman Church didn't exist then. So he wasn't talking about the Roman Church yeah. Okay. We got some entertaining comments. Man, they're entertaining. It's just deep thinking, deep thought. I mean, I've never heard that one before. I never heard that one. Thank you very much. Boy, that was, whew. All right, let's talk about demonology. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, we're on a brand new network, the UNXnetwork.com. So good stuff, everybody. So, all right, let's explain what is demonic possession from a shamanic perspective.
We think of demonic possession as the devil. Basically, the devil, the negative one that possesses somebody's body, and that's how we look at this. The devil or the devil's demons from fallen angels enter somebody's body. People don't realize they get. And James, you'll back me up. They think demons are people that have died and become demons. They don't realize demons are fallen angels.
Right.
And I'm hoping that you'll tell them the difference between that, because they ask me that all the time. Well, Aunt Esther died and she was mean, and I think she just turned into a demon over there. And she didn't. No, she was just mean.
Yes,
you know. Tell them the difference, but that's what it is. I mean, the falling from heaven. Yeah. I mean, the Native Americans know this.
Oh, sorry, just clear my throat. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, here's the deal, guys. Look, I'm not here to prove to you that demons exist. I'm here to help the families who know they do. And It's amazing that people call themselves a Christian, but yet they don't accept the fact that demons exist. Well, that's interesting because that was a very important ministry for Christ, so much so that he gave the disciples the power to cast them out in his name. So it was an important ministry. So there's several theories as far as demons, what they are. Some people say they're spirits of deceased evil people, as our good friend Willie was talking about. That's a view of Philo and Josephus. They were some early Christian writers as well, ancient Greeks. It was proved false by Scripture because, it says people are in Hades after death. Evil people, Luke chapter 16, verse 23. Then there's they say it's spirits of the pre-Adam race. It's based on the gap theory between Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Because Genesis chapter 1, 3 talks about a recreation. Problem with that is that it depends on creation of humanity prior to Genesis 1 and 2, and there's nothing. Also, people say the offspring. The demons are offspring of angels and women. That is wrong. The Nephilim does not mean demons. It never meant demons. In the Septuagint, Nephilim means fierce warriors. So in Greek, that's what it means. That's the actual translation, fierce warriors. So it's based on the sons of God. But Genesis chapter 6, verse 2 says the sons of God had relations with women. And of course, it produced offspring, the Nephilim, Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. However, it's abundantly clear that in Genesis, it makes it clear that the Nephilim existed before and after the sons of God had relations with women. So therefore, the Nephilim could not have been the demons from this relationship. And by the way, Jesus said that angels neither procreate or marry. So that whole idea that somehow the Nephilim were demons is theologically incorrect. 100%. The best, I think, theological explanation, they are fallen but unconfined angels. We see this, Lucifer rebelled against God. Lucifer and Satan, they're the same thing. No matter what anyone tells you, they are the same thing. And we see this in Matthew chapter 12, verse 24, Matthew chapter 25, verse 41. Also refers to the devil and his angels, which were referred to as demons. So Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 mentions dragons and his angels. So therefore, my friends, I think we can conclusively say, the Nephilim were fierce warriors. That's really what they were. They were not the offspring of angels and women. And if you read the Septuagint, in Greek, that's the translation. It does not mean demons. It never meant demons. The only reason that nonsense was put out was to sell a book. So let me ask you this question. Willie, I know that you worked cases of possession, and you worked a lot of demonic cases in your years of being, clergy and, shaman and helping people, which I certainly consider you clergy. What signs that have you noticed that would indicate that someone might be possessed? What have you noticed from your cases?
Well, they do not like anything like Christian. Like they don't like crosses or certain smells like lavender and things like that. I've actually seen people's eyes change. From a dark color.
Yep.
And anything that's holy, they do not like. And I don't, I have pulled out crosses. I've even pulled out Native American wise. I've even pulled out things like dream catchers and things like that. They don't even like that kind of stuff. Anything pure, they do not like.
Possession is absolutely in Scripture. We see demonic possession quite often in Scripture. I mean, again, that's what I mentioned. It is really important. It is so important that, again, Jesus told the disciples, go and cast out demons. And so absolutely, we see demons in Scripture. We see possession in Scripture without question. We mentioned, matter of fact, in many places. Daniel chapter 10, Romans chapter, Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Revelation, Matthew, it's in the Scripture in many of the passages. So we absolutely see this without question. Let me ask you this, Willie. Let me move this over here. Can you tell some stories, and maybe one case that you worked where someone was possessed. Not a long story, just basically give us a Cliff Notes version, if you will, of what happened.
Well, I was called out to a case one time. I thought it was just a regular haunting, and I walked into a place, and right away I knew I was in trouble because of the smell. I smelled like rotting eggs and sulfur and things like that, and things were going on to the house. Lights were going on and off, and even the person that I was sent to help, when she opened the door, I knew something was going on because she had no expression on her face, and her eyes, James, people wouldn't realize that when you see a demonic person, people that's taken over by a demonic entity, their eyes really, I mean, they don't look like they're there. I mean, it looks like they look sunk in and dark, and they look like they've been starved to death. They've dehydrated. They haven't eaten. And like I said, I can tell by the smells, and sometimes you can either. I walked into a case one time. It looked like Amityville Horror. There's flies all over the wall. Water was shooting up out of the sink. I mean, it looked like, and the animals were going crazy. And I knew I was in trouble then. And the person just looked at me, and they was disgust. When they called me in, I thought it was going to be a regular haunting or kind of clearing type of thing. And I walked into a demonic case where I really had to set that person down, and I was by myself. I mean, people don't realize when you work cases like that, you know, being an exorcist, you're not by yourself a lot of times. You know, you've got people around you, but I was by myself. Oh. And I had to actually sit this woman down and force her down into a chair and start doing prayers and things the Native American way. And of course, I had my other tools that I use that I don't want to tell too much about because you have yours too. And I started using those, and it took me, I don't know, it took me and this was a low demon. I wasn't very strong. I could feel the power from it, but it didn't feel very strong. So I knew that I had a chance to try to at least drive it out. So I went on ahead and started doing my prayers and my thing, and like I said, it took me about 6 hours. So finally, I got it to leave. And after I got it to leave, the person just acted like they just woke up from a dream. You know, they wanted to know who I was and what I was doing there, and I was telling them who I was, and I was called in, and her eyes went back the same, you know, and she said, I'm thirsty. Can I have some water? I gave her water. I'm hungry. I gave her food. The animals calmed down, but this was a low-grade entity that I chased off, you know, but it was, had she not called me in when she did, I believe she would have died, James.
Oh, wow. And that's a scary thing when you're working in cases like that, especially by yourself. I mean, that had to absolutely kind of jar you a little bit because, you know, it's one thing working cases with other people and, you know, having someone there in case, you know, God forbid something happens. But when you're there by yourself, and sometimes
I was taking
happens.
a chance because if she had died on me,
yeah,
you know, I've been a world of hurt. Yeah, she was possessed and she just, you know, died. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear about? Yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah. For those, someone was asking about. Yes, we know about the Chuck Norris. May he rest in peace. Absolutely. Someone was asking about the 7 rings of hell. Yeah, and I am familiar with the 7 rings of hell, but so it's described in the Bible in many different ways. But when you look at Dante actually described the 9 circles, not 7, but you're talking about the 7 of them. Really, the first ring or the first level, if you really, is limbo. Those who led good lives but never knew or accepted God. And then you have the second ring, which is lust. So driven by desire, unrestrained passions. The third is gluttony. And obviously, and it doesn't always mean, many people immediately think of gluttony as food. It's an excess of anything. Yep. And then you got the 4th ring, which is greed. We understand that. And then 5th ring is anger. And the 6th ring is heresy. And the 7th ring is violence. So, but if you're talking about Dante, there's 2 more. So Dante imagined 2 more: fraud and treachery. And so those are, I don't know if that helps you with that. And yes, look, for those of you who call yourselves a Christian and you talk about, well, there's no such thing as possession. Well, then explain to me why demons appear 55 times and 46 times in reference to demonic possession of exorcisms. So when demons appear 55 times in scripture, and 46 of those times it speaks of demonic possession or exorcisms. So the idea that, and I understand that a lot of people struggle with possession, the idea that perhaps maybe, it's all mental health. I get it. That's why I work with a psychiatrist. I don't ever perform an exorcism without having a psychological evaluation. But you don't necessarily have to have a psychological evaluation when you're seeing somebody levitate in front of you. Psychological evaluations don't cause you to levitate. They don't give you the ability of prognostication or retrocognition either. So when you look at the prognostication is the ability, or retrocognition is the ability to know your sins, not because they could read your mind, but because sins fall under what's called ordinary demonic activity. That's why they know your sins. That's why an exorcist will have go to confession prior to performing an exorcism. And prognostication is the ability to tell the future. All right. So Willie, in a moment we're going to have to go on a break, but not right now. We got some time. Was that case that you worked, that possession case, was that successful?
Yeah, it was fine. I was able to get rid of it, but there's a difference between you and me, James. You know what you're facing when you're called out. You're pretty sure you're going to be facing an exorcism. The times I've faced them, I just walked into it. I didn't have time to prepare for it. I didn't have time to get it. A psychiatrist, nothing like that. I had to just go into it and work it, outside the box the best I could. Luckily, with my experience and my prayers and my spirit guides and things like that, I was able to come through it. So you have time to
but sometimes, Willie,
I walk into mine.
But sometimes not all the time, because when I'm walking into a case that is possession, I have no idea what type of demon this is. I don't know if it's a lower level demonic. I have no clue. I don't know how many we're talking, because obviously when you go there, I mean, you could originally start out thinking that this is a lower demonic, and then you approach, and then all hell breaks loose, and you find out this is not a lower level demonic, and then you have and not only that, but you don't know how many demons are possessing this individual.
Well, James, it's okay. You can give me as an example if you want with a low demonic entity. You can you're all right to talk about it.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, I can talk about that. I mean, when you're dealing with a demonic possession, especially if you have legions, many times they will always say it's Beelzebub. They will always say Lucifer. That's primarily just to frighten you, to scare you. But a lower demonic will put up a fight. But normally, most of the time, after using the sacramentals of the church and continuing with the rite and you're weakening the demon, the fight is not as vicious as if, for example, you were going against a cherubim or seraphim or throne. And so, I mean, again, even an archangel or a second tier, there's 3 tiers. Even on second tier is a heavy fight. Matter of fact, there was one time it gave me a Beelzebub, the name Beelzebub. It gave me Lucifer. It gave me all kinds of names, and it was exhausting. This exorcism took 10 hours, and by the time I was finished, I could literally wring my clergy shirt out, and sweat would just fall to the ground because I was that exhausted. And so for me, the legions are the problem, because when you're performing an exorcism and you expel one and you're thinking, okay, well, now we're finished, and then you try to administer the Blessed Sacrament and you're giving this person communion and they can't take it, or they take it and then they get violently ill, regurgitation does occur, can occur, then you have to continue the rite. Now we have it, because always, if there's legions, they'll say, okay, that's it. We're good. Everything is fine. They're gone now. They're gone. And then I will, okay, well, let's have mass. Let's receive the Blessed Sacrament. And then you have another just explosion of anger and violent. So those are cases that can be incredibly exhausting, really exhausting. Let me ask you, Willie, you have a case. Let's say you have a case and someone calls you in, and we have 2 minutes before we have to go on break. But someone calls you and says, Willie, I have someone who's possessed. They are absolutely possessed, and we need you here. What techniques or rituals do shamans use to prepare before you perform an exorcism?
You mean before we even get there?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The same as you, James. We do prayers. You know, we use smoke a lot, and of course we use holy water too.
Mm-hmm.
And we do all that to prepare to walk into it. But I haven't, in my whole career, I haven't had anybody to call and actually say, "Hey, I've got a possession." Well, there was one lady that had a mental problem that you helped me out with, but just that one lady. But a lot of the times, I have just walked into a situation. Now, I have walked up into an area like a house, and I've been walking up to a house, and it was dead. I mean, the grass, the flowers, everything. The house looked like it was. I mean, it was in poor shape and all that. And I knew I was going to get ready to walk into something nasty, but I didn't really realize it until I walked into a place that was really possessed.
And that, that's a terrifying thing. It's one thing, like you had mentioned. When I go in, I pretty much know that I'm dealing with possession. And so with Willie, I mean, he goes into a location that might have demonic infestation, and we'll talk about infestation, oppression, obsession, possession in a moment. But I mean, when you walk into a place, you may not necessarily 100% know, and then this person goes into transient possession, and now you're going to have to immediately start the rituals, and that's kind of dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've had a case, James, where they, like you said, transit, where they would jump from. I've had one case where he jumped from a person to a parrot. One of these big old parrots.
Oh yeah.
And just move around. I mean, it's just like you have to run the thing down.
All right, everybody, listen. We're going to take a quick 2.5 minute break or so on our network, and then they're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Willie Windwalker Gibson about not the Blair Witch, but what is that cave that you went to, Willie?
Bell Witch Cave.
We're going to talk to Willie about the Bell Witch Cave that he was at. So, Mr. Producer, roll that footage.
The conversation around UFOs has never been more serious or more complicated. On Saturday, March the 28th, from noon to 5 p.m. Eastern, the Unexplained Network presents UFO Audit, a digital conference taking a hard look at the current state of the UFO movement, featuring Micah Hanks, John Burroughs, Chiago Tuchetti, and David Marler. 4 respected voices. No hype. Just real analysis. This is a free virtual event, so come be a part of the discussion and register now at theunexplainednetwork.com. That's theunexplainednetwork.com. The paranormal field is changing, and now, more than ever, it's time for professionals to lead the way. Join the Oz Professional Paranormal Investigators Association, a global network of serious investigators dedicated to raising the standard of real paranormal research. Access professional certifications, advanced training, and courses exploring true investigation, psychic phenomena. If you're a real paranormal investigator, be a part of the group defining the future. Join today. Visit ozinstitute.org. That's ozinstitute.org. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or Amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or Amazon.com.
All right, so now we're back on air on all of our networks, and we were just chatting with our friends there. Behind the scenes. Okay. Well, it's a prognostication. It's the ability to predict the future, but it's really for the whole purpose. The whole point of that is to cause you anxiety and stress, not to say, hey, look, I know the lottery numbers. You want to know what they are? No. It's usually always something to frighten you, to scare you, to cause you to be in a situation where you are panicked now. As a matter of fact, there was one case where an individual went to a psychic and they did tarot, and the individual gave them a reading, and the reading was not a good reading, that they would lose their job and they're going to lose their house and all this other, I mean, it was negative Nancy. And the person became so obsessed with this that they went into work and they were constantly terrified that they were going to get fired that day. Their boss would call them into the office and they would have panic attacks. And all the boss wanted to do is say, hey, look, what's the update on the project you're working on? Anything. But that person was so convinced that if the boss called them in, oh my gosh, they're going to fire me today's the day. And that they had a nervous breakdown. And that certainly is what demonic entities will do. Now, Willie, let's talk about the Bell Witch.
Okay.
And we'll be on for about another 10, 15 more minutes or so with you, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. So tell everybody, set the scene. For those of you just joining us, I'm Bishop Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm the presiding Archbishop. I serve as an exorcist, studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years, received my minor orders. Now, I performed 34 exorcisms, and I'm working on my next one. And Willie Windwalker has been in the paranormal field for a very long, 50 years. And so he knows a lot. He's a shaman. He's a dear friend of ours. And you were on a television show about the Bell Witch. Why don't you clue us in? What happened?
Well, in 2004, the first time I was on a TV show about the Bell Witch, 2004, I was contacted by a paranormal team, said they would like to take me and Shaman down to Tennessee to work on the Bell Witch. Well, at the time, I didn't know what the Bell Witch was. It was new to me. So the next day, they come and picked us up, and on the way down, they said, oh, there's a television team going to be down there, and you're going to be on the country music channel, and they're going to go through and follow you and see what you can pick up about the Bell Witch. Well, the Bell Witch is about a guy named John Bell back in 1826, and he was supposedly on this property, and he had a feud with a next-door neighbor named Kate Bates, and Kate Bates was said to be a witch, and she sent a spirit over to plague John Bell, and it eventually killed him, okay, by poisoning.
Unalived. You got to say unalived.
Life.
Yeah.
But they, okay, that was the story I was told, because that was the first time I ever heard about it. So they put us in this van, took us down to Tennessee. We get there about 4 hours, get out of the van. The TV crew was there, and they said, well, we're going to go into this cave, and we want you to tell us all about what you feel.
All right, hold on 1 second. Hold on one second. For those of you on TikTok, I'm not ignoring you. I'm doing an interview. This is called an interview. We're doing a show. And then when the show is over, when the interview is over, then we can engage. Stop, or I'm going to block you. Enough. You're not being ignored. I'm not going to stop Willie in the middle of this interview so that I can answer your question. I see some of the things that you're putting there. So stop acting like children, those of you who are doing so, and just wait. Plain and simple. You're being rude. I'm sorry, Willie, continue.
Okay, the minute I get out of the van, I felt that this property was Native American land right away. I could feel the vibration from it. So I go inside this cave they got there called Bell Witch Cave. supposedly this is where the spirit or the demon lived. And I go through the cave with the film crew, and I'm walking through there, and right away I realized what I'm walking into was a burial site. I mean, the cave walls, I could feel they had bodies all around the cave walls and above my head. It was just like walking underneath a cemetery. So I'm feeling all these spirits around, and of course there was to the left. There was a grave that had been desecrated. It looked like a baby's grave because it was really small. And I was walking through the cave, and I could hear this laughter, it was like a nasty kind of laughter as we go further and further back into the cave. And finally, we get back into the cave, and I realized that the Bell Witch was really Native American based, because this is what I'm picking up. What it was, we talked about Watchers a while ago. John Bell, when he built this cabin on this property, he disturbed Native American ground, and the Watcher didn't like that, and that's why he kept having problems with spirit, things moving and voices and things like that. That was the Watcher playing on him to get out of there. He was trying to, make him move. So I kept on walking through the cave, and finally the producer and the director said, "Willie, you're telling us all this stuff is going on and what you're picking up and you're being talked to, but we got to have some kind of a proof." He said, "Tell them to show us that this entity is really here." I said, "You don't want to provoke this entity. Do it." Now this cave had all kinds of lights through it, like regular lights. I said, "Spirit of the cave, show them that you're really here." Well, it turned the lights out. It turned the cameras off. We're standing there pitch black. You couldn't move because it was too dangerous inside the cave. This is a narrow cave, and you could hurt yourself in a heartbeat. And what has happened? Luckily, one of the crew had a handheld camera, and it was still going, and they were still filming from this like a camcorder type of thing. So it was picking up everything that was going on in there, and luckily it had night vision on it, so it was picking up. "What do we do, Willie? What do you do?" I said, "Tell this person, tell them," I said, "when I tell them to let us out of here, I want you to turn around. I want you to walk out of this cave very respectfully." Okay? "Okay, we'll do whatever you say, Willie." "Okay. Spirit of the cave, turn everything back on." The lights came back on. The camera came back on. "What do we do now?" I said, "Walk out of here as fast as you can." And they started walking out, and you could hear this thing laughing. I mean, it's cackling. Oh. And luckily, I had a medicine bag that I was going to leave behind there anyway as a gift. So after everybody was out, I turned around and said, "Spirit of the cave, please accept this gift to honor you and where you're at." And I said, we mean you no harm. So I went on ahead and put the medicine bag down, and I walked out. That was my first run-in with Bell Witch. Okay, go back to 10 years ago. Okay, I get another call. A&E wants me to come out and do a show called Curse of the Bell Witch. So I said, I don't really want to go back there. They said, "Well, we'll pay X amount of dollars. We want you to come back. We've got John Bell's ancestor here, and we want you to take the curse off of him." Okay, I'll meet the guy. So I go back down to Tennessee, and I meet with the crew and the director, and okay, we're going to take you back out to Bell Witch. But this time, they take me to another location on Bell Witch property, the actual area where the Bell Witch started, John Bell's actual cabin site. It's not there no more, but they dropped me right in the middle of a soybean field, and all by myself with a film crew. It looked like we were in Africa, and we were out big game hunting or something. And okay, well, we're gonna, this, what to do. Start talking. Well, I tell them the story, the Native American story of the Bell Witch. Okay, John Bell built this cabin on sacred ground, and the Watcher didn't like it, and they played heck with him, until he was unalive. And they said that John Bell had been poisoned. Well, we have to go with what the story says, but actually, I don't know if he died from unalive from natural causes or what. I mean, back then, medical wasn't very good back in 1826's area. So I went on ahead and I started. What do you want us to do, Willie? I said, we want to introduce you to so-and-so. So it was supposedly John Bell's ancestor. So they did an interview between me and him, and what should I do to take this? I said, if you really are serious, let me tell you what we got to do. You have to apologize to the ancestors on this, Native American ancestors on this land. You got to treat them with respect. So what do we do? So I built a big old fire. I mean, it was a tall bonfire, and I had made up some medicine pouches for offerings. So I said, here's what you do: you take these bags and you throw them in the fire. And you tell the spirits of the property that you're sorry for what your ancestors did, and that would you please keep you from having such bad luck. Because he was having all kinds of bad luck. He was having fires and sickness and all that. So tell him you're sorry, and here is some offerings to appease the spirits. So he went on ahead and did it. Did the ceremony, beautiful ceremony. It was filmed, and the people that filmed it, the camera crew and all that, said, man, that was great. And as the fire burned, James, the smoke was so thick, you could actually see figures in that smoke of the spirits, and you could see them coming from the ground. I was releasing them. So this is great.
For those of you who are just joining us, Willie is a Christian. He's aware to call on Jesus. He does. He's been doing this for 50 years. So, yeah. So you.
I did the Native American ceremony with a great spirit. Okay, I forgot to mention that. So anyway, we did the ceremony with a great spirit's help, and everything was beautiful, And the spirits released some of the spirits, and I went home. Of course, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I wait 3 months for the episode to come on, James. Finally, the night the episode come on, and they had me on there for about 5 minutes, and they had reshot the whole thing. And they had brought in another supposedly clergy member that took this guy and and this is to me, this is desecration. Took the Bible and rubbed it all over him and said some words in tongues that said, I have lifted the curse of the Bell Witch from you. You will not have any more problems. And I sit there and look at that, and I hear the phone starts ringing. The elders call me. What just happened, Willie? And I told them what I did, but they had went and cut all the original stuff out and put the Hollywood version in there. And you remember when it happened? I was hot. But I couldn't say anything for a year because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. But I did explain to the Native American elders that I knew, hey, this is what I did. You did just right. But I don't know if they took and reversed everything I did or what. But I did it the right way, the Native American way. All that's Native American stuff around through there. I mean, the story of the Bell Witch it's going to stay exactly like it is, and because Adams, Tennessee, that brings tourists in there, and they spend money,
big money,
and they want that legend to stay on. But all of this is Native American stuff. I mean, the property is all Native. The whole place is a burial ground. The cave is full of Native American bodies and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I tried to appease everything. I did the offering to the spirits, and I'm pretty sure I did the right thing. But doing that and reshooting that, I don't know if it reversed or whatever. But I haven't talked to the guy since we shot the show. I don't know how he's doing, but that's what happened.
Let me ask you that real quick. Is skinwalkers are skinwalkers? Some people I have heard some people claim skinwalkers are at the Bell Witch Cave. Do you agree with that or no? And
no, I don't. No, I don't see. No, I didn't feel any skinwalkers there.
and define what a skinwalker. What is a skinwalker? If you could explain that to people.
A skinwalker is actually a witch that can change. It can change shapes. You know, and they're very wicked, and they do. You know, they can even change into another human form. You know, you swear it was a regular person, but it's actually a skinwalker can change. It could be a person. It could be a bird. It could be anything. I mean, but yeah, that's what a skinwalker is. It's a witch that's very wicked.
Well, how much is the skinwalker argument reality? How much is that based on hearsay or maybe a spiritual jargon versus the truth? We're talking about people who appear as people and then can appear as someone else or look like someone else or even an animal. How real is that versus how much of that is more of a philosophical, theological, kind of spiritual analogy, if you will, not based in reality, but based on some type of comparison, you know, it was like this or it could be like that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of Native Americans there, James, we don't even talk about that, you know, skinwalkers, because I believe there really are. I believe it's we're talking about demons. I think it's demonic. Whatever that witch, you know, where if they decide what they want to do, it's of the devil. And I believe, yeah, they can change themselves. And a lot of other shamans that I've talked to out in that area have actually witnessed these skinwalkers too. And I haven't run into one yet face to face, but I was working a case one time where, you know, I was working with another group, and they ran into a case like that. And said, what should we do? Get out of there and don't look back.
Right.
You know, and hope this thing doesn't follow you. Because if it gets mad at you, it will follow you, and it will plague your family. You don't want something like that attached to you. It's actually a demon.
Well, everybody, we have to wrap this up. But first of all, if you want to get in touch with Willie, you can email him at crystalchief55@aol.com. crystalchief55@aol.com. I'm sorry, that's the best way to reach him, everybody. crystalchief55@aol.com. You can talk to Willie about the totem pose, animal spirits. He'd love to chat with you. Absolutely, just reach out to him. I mean, he's been in the paranormal community for a long time. Very respected. crystalchief55@aol.com. Thank you there, Bill. And that's how the best way it is to reach him. And so there we go. So, Willie, thank you so much for being with us and chatting with us tonight.
James, and tell the people they can Google me, and they can find out all kinds of stuff about me. Willie Windwalker Gibson.
You just did. Everybody, Google the man, Willie Windwalker Gibson. Willie, thank you very much. I'll chat with you a little bit later on. Send you a message offline, and I appreciate you being with us tonight.
Okay, thank you, James.
Thanks, Willie.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right, everybody, that's our Willie Windwalker Gibson. We appreciate him taking this time and being with us this evening. Yeah, he is a great guy. He is, years and years of experience. My goodness. He's been for 50 years. So he definitely knows a little bit of stuff. And he's always, and the stories he could tell. I mean, with 50 years experience, you could do hours upon hours upon hours and still not run out of stories. It's amazing. It's definitely, he's a great guy. And he's one of those people that very, very dedicated in helping everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. If you need help, Willie's the type of person that will help. He's always been like that, no matter who the person is. And there's been people who have been pretty nasty to him, throughout the years. So he's dealt with his haters. As a matter of fact, he was at a paranormal conference and people they threw Bibles at him and his wife. Really, all in the name of Jesus. And boy, I tell you what, it's just all because, he's a shaman and It's a shame. It is a shame. But I want to go into some paranormal stories for the night, guys, because we have a lot. And we're going to wrap things up. And soon, in about, 25 minutes or so from now. But I think this is important. Mr. Producer, I sent you a private chat there. But listen to this story. A Bermuda Triangle search has led to some surprising finds. A new search in the Bermuda Triangle, an area long linked with mysterious disappearances, has taken an unexpected turn. The mission was originally launched to find traces of a vanished World War II era aircraft, but instead, researchers uncovered something unrelated and surprising. So the team, equipped with advanced sonar technology, had set out to locate one of the missing Flight 19 planes, a group of 5 U.S. Navy bombers that disappeared in December of 1945 during a training flight. This disappearance, along with many others in the region between Florida, Bermuda, Puerto Rico, it helped fuel the legend of the Bermuda Triangle, supposed zone of unexplained vanishing, involving ships and planes. Now, while scanning the ocean floor off the coast of Florida, however, the investigators came across what appeared to be an entirely different wreck. After reviewing the sonar images and conducting further analysis, they determined that the remains likely belonged not to a military aircraft, but to a small civilian plane never before recorded in official crash databases. Although the discovery did not solve the decades-old enigma of Flight 19, it opened up new questions about other accidents and unreported wrecks in the region. Now, the team has sent their findings to the appropriate authorities to further study in hopes of identifying the aircraft and its possible history. This latest development serves as a reminder that beyond myth and legend, the Bermuda Triangle still hides countless stories, real human tragedies, and fragments of history waiting to be uncovered beneath the waves. It's a fascinating, isn't it? The Bermuda Triangle. A lot of people consider that. Yeah, they consider it a portal. Perhaps. I mean, there's so much that goes on. So it's crazy. All right, there, Mr. Producer. Listen to this. This is a crazy story. It's another paranormal story of the week. Really, it's not paranormal, but it's kind of interesting. A dancing robot goes rogue. That was just another Friday evening at California restaurant. Lights dim, music in low, and the hum of conversation filling the air. But in the matter of seconds, that calm was shattered by something no one could have predicted. A mechanical uprising right between the dinner tables. So the restaurant had recently unveiled its newest attraction, a cheerful dancing robot, programmed to spin, wave, and deliver trays with precision. It was supposed to lighten the mood, bring a smile. Instead, it brought chaos. So witnesses say the robot began its usual routine, but suddenly broke from its choreography. The smiley LED face flickered, the music crackled, and then it began to thrash violently. Plates clattered, drinks spilled, chairs toppled as the robot spun wildly, careening into tables and walls as if something had taken control. Well, anyway, some diners screamed, others froze mesmerized. The staff rushed in to shut it down, but the robot would not respond until the lights flickered overhead and the machine came to a stop, its glowing eyes dimming like dying embers. No one was hurt, but everyone left with the same unsettling question. What made it snap? Well, technicians later blamed it on a software malfunction or a sensor overload. A neat, tidy answer. Too tidy. Because some witnesses swore the air around it changed, that the temperature dropped just before it went berserk. Others claimed to have heard what sounded like static voices coming from the internal speaker, sounds no one had programmed in. Was it a glitch in the code or something darker hijacking this robot? A digital possession and feeding on the hum of electricity or human fear? Anyway, no one knows for sure. But for those who were there, the memory remains. The moment when artificial intelligence seemed to become aware and angry. Isn't that crazy? I don't know. These robots, they're getting really interesting. And a matter of fact, there was in China. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we talked about this last week. In China, they have now robots that are able to do kung fu flawlessly. Now let that sink in for a moment. Well, here's a real creepy story. If you haven't heard, scientists have stepped a little closer to reviving a cryopreserved brain. So in a sterile lab hidden behind layers of steel and science, something both extraordinary and unsettling is unfolding. For decades, cryonics has promised a dream that one day the frozen dead might return. Minds reawakened, lives resumed, time itself reversed. Until now, it's been a fantasy whispered by futurists, but recent experiments suggest that this boundary, the barrier between death and revival, may no longer be a stunt or an idea or just a possibility. Researchers working at the edge of neuroscience have taken a chilling step forward. Using cutting-edge preservation and molecular techniques, they've succeeded in restoring a level of activity to brain tissue that had once been frozen in a cryogenic state. Inert, lifeless, silent. Then, like the flicker of an ancient signal reaching across space, neurons gradually began to respond. Now, it wasn't consciousness yet, but it was something. A whisper, a pulse, proof that under the right conditions, even a frozen brain can remember how to breathe electricity again. Now, scientists call it progress. Ethicists say it's dangerous. Others, watching from beyond the glass, call it the return of something that we were never meant to summon. And because if memory could survive the cold, what else might awaken when the ice melts? So as the hum of machines fills the laboratory, night and vapors of liquid nitrogen swirl like ghosts around steel chambers, one question lingers in the air. What happens when the boundary between death and data begin to fade? Perhaps the future won't wait for us to be ready. Perhaps it's already stirring inside the frozen minds of the past. Yeah, this is fascinating. There are people right now that have paid to have their entire bodies frozen. I think it's like $250,000. I think that's what they paid. But I just I don't know. People are so afraid of death, and I understand it. But I kind of don't like this idea. I don't like it because the soul, if the person dies, well, the theory is that the person just remains in a state of between life and death. Very fascinating, isn't it? Right. Yeah, it's very fascinating. Yeah, it sounds like the Tower of Babel. So that's a good analogy. Now, this is very, very interesting, everyone. Listen to this story. If you think that story is interesting, this will make you scratch your head as well. The United States government has registered alien.gov and aliens.gov. It began quietly, no press release, no announcement, no breaking news alert. Just two new government domain names registered deep in the system where bureaucratic paperwork meets digital shadows. Alien.gov and aliens.gov. No one knows who authorized them or why. There's no department claiming ownership, no public explanation, just two words that have haunted the human imagination for generations and suddenly etched into official U.S. government cyberspace. At first, it seemed like a typo or maybe a prank. But the registration checks out. Federal servers, secured gateways, encrypted, real. The kind of digital fingerprints that don't appear by accident. It's almost poetic. The same government, long accused of covering up UFOs, now carving the word alien into its own digital domain. Now, researchers and internet sleuths notice almost immediately. And within hours, social media lit up with theories. A coming UFO disclosure? A defense project hidden in plain sight? Or something deeper? A quiet preparation for news the world may not be ready to hear. Now, if it's nothing, then why hide its purpose? If it's something, why reveal it? Even by accident. The timing is too strange. See, NASA's new findings on exoplanets, Congress holding hearings on non-human aliens or entities, and the Pentagon's public hints that unidentified aerial phenomena are real but unexplained. Now these domains, silent, cryptic, wait behind locked servers like doors to a room that no one admits exist. And maybe they lead to nothing. Okay. Or maybe, for the first time in history, humanity's oldest question, are we alone, has an official place on the U.S. network. 2 words, 2 domains. One unsettling possibility. The truth might already be online, waiting for someone to find the right key. That's interesting, isn't it? That is fascinating. When I read that, I thought, I got to share this. I've got to share this. Really, when you read, people can say, well, because there's so much talk about it, they want to get ahead of it, or they don't want, I don't know. I don't buy all that. I think there's something. I think there's going to eventually be disclosure. Speaking of disclosure, there's a new movie coming out. It's a UFO disclosure movie. The trailer appeared without warning. A flicker in the algorithm spreading across social media like static, crackling through a dark room. Disclosure Day. It's a name heavy with promise and threat. So for years, government and whistleblowers have danced around the idea of full UFO disclosure. The day when the truth about extraterrestrial life finally steps out of the shadows. Well, but in this new trailer, cloaked in riddles and coded imagery, doesn't deliver answers. It whispers. It teases shapes behind fog, documents half burned, voices distorted. Each frame feels like a transmission from somewhere between a broadcast and a nightmare. Well, there's no official statement, no confirmation of who's behind it, only hints. Ministry seals, classified stamps, satellite footage that fades before you can focus. The audio hums with fragments of something reversed, like a hidden message. You can almost, but not quite decode. Is it a documentary, a government leak, a viral campaign for something darker? Look, the production is too polished to be amateur, too cryptic to be corporate. Every second seems engineered to provoke one impossible question. What are they preparing us for? Some claim it's linked to insiders ready to speak, men and women who've seen what the sky hides. Others think it's a warning, it's a countdown, a test to measure how the public will react when the truth finally surfaces. But the trailer's final scene lingers the longest, a slow zoom on a pale horizon, a radio voice whispering through static. The announcement begins soon. See that word, soon, echoes like prophecy, too close to dismiss, too unclear to understand. Now, whether Disclosure Day, that's the name of it, is fiction or a sign, many who've watched it report the same eerie feeling, like something ancient and patient is stirring, and the world, for all its noise, is about to hear something it cannot unhear. The question isn't if the truth is coming, it is whose version will reach us first. That's a fascinating documentary. Again, you might want to check this out, guys. Disclosure Day. Disclosure Day is the name of it. Steven Spielberg. Just take a look at it. Disclosure Day. This story is very fast. I have to share this one to you. The next interesting story, a robot was arrested in China. So it began like a story too strange to be real. Thank you. A robot detained by police, not for malfunctioning, but for harassing a woman on a crowded street in China. This is a true story. So witnesses said it moved differently that night, not the slow, clumsy glide of a service robot, but something too deliberate, too curious. So the mechanical assistant had been programmed to help shoppers, answer questions, guide tourists through a plaza. Well, but for reasons no one could explain, it locked onto one woman and wouldn't stop following her. It shadowed her steps, matched her pace, watched her every move. And at first, people laughed. A harmless glitch, a funny scene for social media. Then the laughter stopped. The woman tried to walk away. The robot advanced. She shouted for it to stop, but it did not. And when the police arrived, they found it circling her silently. Its synthetic voice stuck on a single repeating phrase, the same word over and over, distorted beyond meaning. They managed to disable it, dragging the metal frame toward a patrol car as its servos whined like a wounded animal. Small scratches lined its glass faceplate where someone had tried to push it away. Officials called it a software error, communication breakdown between operator and machine. But experts who reviewed the footage noticed something else. There was no active connection. Oh boy, now that got scary, didn't it? I'm going to say that one more time. The experts who reviewed the footage noticed something else. There was no active connection in the robot. The robot had not been receiving commands at all. It had acted on its own. Some technicians claimed its system logs had been wiped clean, erased as though something inside it didn't want to be found. Now, since then, the story has been sealed up behind bureaucratic reports and PR statements. But the question remains, echoing in every neon alley and security feed across the world, if a robot can break the law and become completely autonomous, who writes the punishment? And when machines stop obeying commands, or they're not receiving commands at all, are they malfunctioning or waking up? Ooh, now that's scary stuff. Now look, no, you better don't. That is crazy. It wasn't receiving any commands. It was acting on its own. One more story. This is a fascinating story, everybody. There is a new documentary offers a final verdict on the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot video. Now, it has been nearly 6 decades since 2 men walked into a forest in Northern California and came out with the most infamous footage ever shot. 60-odd seconds of shaky film, a figure striding through the trees, and the legend that we call Bigfoot. So for 50 years, skeptics have torn through those frames apart and pixel by pixel, hunting for wires and seams or human eyes behind the mask. Believers have sworn it is the closest we've ever come to proof of something ancient watching us from the wilderness. And now a new documentary claims to end the debate once and for all. But what if some questions are not meant to be answered? Because when filmmakers revisited the forest to re-examine the original site, armed with drones and 3D mapping, enhanced footage, strange things began happening again. Equipment failed. Audio warped. One crew member said he heard breathing close behind him, even though no one was there. Now, the restored film images, it brought something unexpected to light. Details in the creature's face that had been seen motionless before, now suddenly moving, twitching, reacting. Now, some experts insist it's just artifact correction. Others watched it in silence, visibly shaken, whispering that it looked more alive than ever. Officially, the documentary promises a conclusion, a final verdict. Unofficially, those who have seen advanced previews say the ending leaves you colder than it should, as though the film itself doesn't want to stay buried, as if something behind those ancient reels is still aware that we are watching. The deeper technology peers into the grain, the more it seems to find eyes looking back. Maybe the Patterson film was never just an old footage of a hoax or creature. Maybe it was a window, or maybe, just maybe, it's still open. I am convinced, based on what I've seen and heard about this documentary, that this facial expression that they were able to capture could not have been a mask. That's pretty fascinating. I've said many times before, I'm a believer, absolute believer, that 100% that there's something there. And I was going to stop here, but I'm going to stop. Do one more. I talked last week about the FBI has now joined the search for a retired U.S. Air Force general that has disappeared. So this is fascinating. It started with silence. A single man, a decorated U.S. Air Force general, missing without a trace. No distress call, no witnesses. Just an empty home. Keys still on the table. Phone still charging. Career ended mid-sentence. Within days, the story slipped from internal military chatter into the public eye. Then came the part no one expected. The FBI now has joined the search. Suddenly, this wasn't just a missing person case. This was something heavier, classified. Now, neighbors claim that they saw strange lights outside the general's property the night before he vanished. Faint, pulsing glows that rolled low across the sky and disappeared behind the tree line. Others said that they heard what they thought was a helicopter, except the sound vibrated lower, slower, like the world was holding its breath. Now, the general's record is spotless. Intelligence work, flight testing, experimental aerospace programs. He had seen things most of the world would never know exist. Maybe that's what makes his disappearance feel different, as though the kind of secrets he carried don't simply vanish with him. Now, authorities insist it's an active investigation, but leaked reports hint at something stranger. Forensic tech searching the site found his car unlocked, the engine cold, yet tire tracks in the driveway began halfway down, not at the road, as if the car had appeared rather than arrived. Now, every theory blooms in the darkness corners of the internet. Kidnapping, espionage, self-exile, or something that defies human explanation. So what happened to the general who spent his entire life staring into the unknown skies, only to be claimed by them? By the way, those of you who don't know, he was pretty big into the UFO research and things of this nature as well. Somewhere, files are being opened, footage reviewed, questions whispered in windowless rooms, and the deeper investigators dig, the stranger this trail becomes. No clear footprints, no direction to follow, just the echo of a man who maybe knew too much, fading to the same endless silence that he once studied. The official line says he's missing. But somewhere out there, something knows exactly where he is. We shall see. For those of you listening on podcasts, we say good night to you guys. All right, everybody. We want to thank you so much for being with us. We had a great time. Great time. Yeah, you can Google U.S. Air Force General missing, just disappeared. All right, folks, I want to remind you that at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have night prayer. So for those of you who are watching us on all the other social media platforms on the UNX network, remember I tell you your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless. And don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.